In a recent video, I discussed why I bother making retail videos, and I found that a lot of the reasons why I bother are relatable to others in the retail community. However, what I did not address in that video were the final straws that broke me, so to speak. The things that made me say, you know what? Let's document places in the urban environment. My first notable straw goes way back. I'm talking more than a decade ago, around the turn of the 2010s. Back then, I vividly remember noticing a sufficient lack of coverage of retail topics in and around the Cheyenne vicinity on the web in regard to new things happening in my area, whether it's businesses opening or closing, a building being demolished, or something else happening. In the event I witnessed something like a store opening or closing, I have found that over time, my memory of that event would fade or obscure itself. I'd end up losing track of the exact date something happened, and due to the lack of news coverage and other media, I later found myself unable to verify that what I saw was even real or accurate. I'll add that it was also around this time frame during which I first found myself intrigued at how places looked after closing, though I didn't really get too deep into that curiosity besides the occasional peek into a vacant storefront which may have previously been seen as open. This lack of news coverage in other media on the web can still be felt in 2024 as well. Oftentimes, the average Joe is still unable to easily look up when many places in and around the Cheyenne area have opened or closed. While I can't be absolutely certain, I do suspect this lack of coverage is at least a small part of why several sources recently incorrectly stated that Cheyenne's new Dunkin' Donuts is Cheyenne's first Dunkin', when at best, this information is not entirely true. Cheyenne once had a Dunkin' Donuts roughly 2 decades ago, and that old restaurant dates back to at least 1980. A different business currently operates out of this location, but even to this day, the facade still screams Dunkin'. I've also noticed that it's often quite hard to even find photos or videos of places from a decade or two ago. Kmart in Cheyenne and Kmart in Fort Collins are both prime examples of stores which lack photos and other media documenting what those places looked like when they were open. Actually, I take that back. The manager of the Loveland Kmart Facebook page actually posted a number of photos of the Fort Collins and Loveland Kmart stores, but there's still a lack of more recent photos of the Fort Collins store on the web. Though this is less noticeable nowadays, I do still find that there are some places that seem to go mostly undocumented. It's not necessarily that the media literally doesn't exist, but if the media does exist, it's in such a place that it's immensely challenging to find, if it can be found at all by the average Joe. I think many people on my channel may not realize that I actually started YouTube as a gamer back in the day. I've made teases here and there to that fact, but of course, many may not even care about those hints I've given since most of my current followers and viewers simply weren't watching the channel back then, and that's perfectly okay. I bring this up, however, because gaming was actually another significant straw for me, finding my way into the urban exploration world. In 2016, I vividly recall considering the possibility of exploring places in the urban environment, but I decided against it for a variety of reasons, including because I didn't know where to start. It certainly didn't help that I lacked education in regard to using a camera, and furthermore, the phone that I had at the time just wasn't that great, considering it had no video stabilization whatsoever to my knowledge. In spite of my decision to focus on video games, my interest in urban places still manifested itself in other ways, including within my gaming content. Most of the video games I played directly involved major urban areas such as Forza, Grand Theft Auto, and American Truck Simulator. And if a game such as Minecraft didn't primarily revolve around urban areas, urban spaces would still play a role in how I played. For example, I specifically remember my friends and I building literal towns and cities within Minecraft. At one point, I even built a small but multi-level shopping mall within one of the cities we built. On that note, I never fully furnished it, but, it still had that look. Jumping ahead now, by mid-2018, my local Sears and Kmart stores had already been closed for a few months, and it was at this point when I realized nobody else was going to start to actively and regularly document places in my area, that nobody was going to come save me, so to speak. Occasionally, someone on the web would capture some photos or video clips of some places in my area, but I've generally found that most of these people are the occasional posters and average Joes that don't necessarily crave documenting places regularly. For the few people that were actual creators on YouTube who happen to document a place in or around my area, most of them live and primarily operate in other parts of the world or primarily create other types of content, or both. Of course, I can't blame either of these two groups of people. More power to both of those groups for doing what they want to do, where they want to do it. However, realizing that things were unlikely to change in that respect was another straw which began pushing me beyond the line. One day during the Halloween season in 2018, I visited my local shopping mall, and I decided to pull my phone out and capture a walkthrough of the Spirit Halloween inside my former Sears. I figured, what did I have to lose? It was also around this time that I became aware that Blue Federal Credit Union was actively in the process of acquiring the former Kohl's shopping center with plans to demolish the dead and decaying shopping plaza. Realizing that it was unlikely anybody else would do a substantial video showing what the Kohl's shopping center looked like, I decided to do what nobody else would and capture the former shopping center in its current state. Actually, come to think of it, I think that's where I got my catchphrase, So welcome back to the channel where we explore where no one else has explored before. I don't use this phrase so much these days, but for years, that was one of the first things that I say in my videos, and it's because it was kind of true. Sure, the topic of urban exploration is nothing new in my area, but the places I filmed are places that, to my knowledge, no one else actively filmed or photographed with the intent to document what a place looked and felt like. On this note, by the way, I do understand that photos and videos cannot replace reality, but in reality, one probably cannot currently travel through time and therefore must rely on other media to gain a sense of what places and things were like in the past. I can't just go and visit my local Kmart again or walk through my mall in the 80s and see what it was like in real time with my own eyes. Realizing I was still quite weak in my camera and video editing abilities, I made a decision in 2018 that would act as another straw during my journey toward urban exploration. In late 2018 and into 2019, I decided to take a class on filmmaking, during which I learned how to better use professional video editing software, about the aspects of video and SLR cameras, and even what it's like to operate a multi-person news studio. During this time, I continued documenting the Kohl's shopping center, as well as documenting bits of things here and there as I was able to do so. Once 2019 arrived, I officially began to shift my YouTube channel into what it is today. I posted my first official urban exploration video on May 11th, 2019, during which I visited an abandoned space that later became a Sears hometown. At the time, I didn't know it would later become a Sears hometown, but I did know that it had a huge Walmart logo painted in the back of the store, and that video is still public today. By the way, that was a Walmart recruitment center. As usual, I'd like to thank my channel members who support this journey. If you'd like to further support this journey, links are in the description. Until next time, peace out.